To go. Truth habit.
Okay, we are recording.
We'll keep it clean.
Okay. I think, Melissa, you can jump right in. Carmen gave you the floor.
You know, it's funny. I can't see anyone. Okay, well, hello. I don't see anyone, but I'm going to go for it. Hi, everyone who I can't see. Thanks for having us. It's great to be here with you guys. I only wish we were there in person because Nanette and I are huge fans of your lovely home. So I first want to just give a big thanks to Nanette Friedman, who's the one who got me here. She introduced me to the folks at Remain, who introduced us to Christy and Carmen. No, sorry, who introduced us to, I think, Christy and Janet, who introduced us to Carmen. And Carmen, ooh, lot to keep track of, is the one who reached out and asked us to do the presentation. So in addition, Nanette has graciously offered to drive this presentation because I'm video challenged on my computer. So thank you, Nanette. Okay, so I'm going to talk about CauseMarketing. I'm going to share some examples from best-in-class marketers, and I know that we can pull a bunch of lessons from them. I'll talk about how businesses can use Cause to expand existing Cause programs that they may be working on or create new ones. I'll also talk about how nonprofits can attract corporate partners to help them raise funds and awareness for their missions. So let me just start with some background of myself. I've been working in the field of Cause for about 25 years, actually a little bit more. I've worked at big agencies, PR agencies, ad agencies, and promotions agencies. About 9 years ago, I started a consulting group called FreeStyle Strategy, and I focus on social impact consulting, helping both brands and nonprofits. For the businesses, I help them create consumer-facing programs, either working with an existing nonprofit relationship or creating a new nonprofit relationship. For the nonprofits, I serve as an extension of their marketing and development groups and help them manage their assets in a way that bundles them up to offer something that is of value to business partners to attract funding. And this is just a take a look at the work I've done. I thought that would be good context. Click. Thank you, Nanette. So I didn't do a deep dive, but I did take a look at some of the current programs that you guys are working on the island, which is great. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce Epernay's correctly, but I love this. I love this one where I feel, if I'm reading it right, they've created this Cheers to Charities platform, and then I think every month they do a one sip at a time promotion, and they dedicate all probably the net proceeds from their sales of spirits to, I think it's always a local nonprofit. So that's fabulous. And then it looks like the turkey plunge is pretty obvious of what happens there with the library. And then the Whales for the Cause, I think that's a Vineyard Vine national promotion, which has people download a PDF, color in a whale, and then I think they give $10 to Feeding America. And as I saw that one, I thought, well, that doesn't really feel right to me. Why? I mean, food insecurity is a big issue, but I was like, why don't they, localize that for Nantucket and give back to the Whaling Museum or the Egan Maritime Institute? So I'll give them a call when we're off the phone. So I'm going to just start with some inspiration. It's such an amazing field, this cause space. And I will talk about CauseMarketing in detail, but before we dive into that, I just want to kind of give you a 10,000-foot view about the field of social responsible marketing and show you an example of how a big brand really embraces purpose marketing. But I'm going to note if you just click down. I think Richard Edelman puts it, of course he would, given he's the CEO and president of Edelman, which is a humongous PR agency. But I think he sums it up nicely to say, brands have a fundamental responsibility to join the discussion and be part of the solution. And I'm not going to read those, but you guys can take a glance at that. And we will be sending out the deck after, as well as this call is being recorded. So since the time I wrote this deck, first I was like, all I was talking about was COVID. I was like, can you believe these commitments these brands have made? Ralph Lauren and Lowe's and even TikTok, and they were just putting millions of dollars into COVID. And 2 weeks ago, brands stepped right back up to join this racial injustice issue. And Michael Jordan's foundation gave $100 million commitment to the cause, saying he's going to donate $10 million a year for 10 years to fight racial injustice. Lowe's made another $25 million donation. Disney, Lego, TikTok again put money in. Now they're up to another 20 million. And I haven't even looked today, but I'm sure there's more. And these actions are, we could have a whole discussion about that, but I think these actions really show that these brands are being very, trying to be very responsive to what's happening. And they're literally trying to embed cause into their ethos of their brand. So we're gonna watch a little TV now. Before we click though, Nanette, I think it's gonna play immediately. I'm gonna show you a short, it's like 30 seconds, I think, ad that Procter & Gamble created. Now, when you're watching it, keep in mind, they first aired this ad in 2017. And then about 2 weeks ago, they re-aired it in Minneapolis after the death of George Floyd. So I think you'll find it pretty authentic. So take a look. Is the sound up? Can you hear the sound? Nanette?
Yeah, I can hear it.
I can't. Can anyone else hear it?
No, not on this end.
Okay, hold on. You know what, Nanette?
Yeah.
Sorry. I saw this last night somewhere. I feel like this happened to me before. Okay, sorry guys. Just give me 1 minute. Because this is so cool. I think there's a box you need to check, Nanette, that I didn't know this before. Sorry guys. That lets you play the sound or something. Just hold on a minute. Or we can skip the whole thing, but I'd rather not. We had this whole thing worked out. The whole reason Nanette is doing this, is doing the presentation is so we can play the video. So hold on. So Nanette, can you make me a share of the screen? Can I share my screen if you stop for a minute?
Yep, I'm gonna stop. I stopped.
Oh, now I see everyone. Hi, everyone. Okay, now, share. Now, can you guys hear this?
The lady at the store.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That is not a compliment.
It's an ugly, nasty word, and you are going to hear it. Nothing I can do about that. But you are not going to let that word hurt you.
You got your ID? I guess I stopped you. Okay. Now, when you get pulled over, I'm a good driver. Baby, don't worry. This is not about you getting a ticket. This is about you not coming home. I'm gonna be okay. Right? Okay. You are not pretty for a black girl. You are beautiful, period. Okay? Don't ever forget that.
Okay, Nanette, take the screen back, and we'll get back to business. Sorry about that detour, people. So it's interesting because, and you can go to that next. Oh, go to presenter mode. There you go. Present. There. Okay. Hold on. It's interesting because that ad, as I said, they didn't just decide after George Floyd's murder, oh, we're going to create an ad and we're going to air it. They started that in 2017, and then they re-aired it in 2020. But interestingly, the Black Lives Matter movement really came into focus for Americans in 2014. So in a lot of ways, they were 3 years late to the party of education and being a part of the social movement, but yet still, no denying it. They are incredibly genuine and authentic with their messaging, and there are a lot of brands coming into the space right now in the social injustice or racial injustice movement who are getting a lot of flack for not feeling authentic. So enough about that, just to show you that that's a purpose-led company, and it certainly works well with their consumers. Okay, click. Thank you. All right, so now let's dive into CauseMarketing. If we're feeling inspired, I hope we are. So CauseMarketing, if you took this circle here on the left and we unrolled it, CauseMarketing would really be on the far left, where with CSR, corporate social responsibility, would be on the far right with everything in between. CauseMarketing really does fit into this large family. It's very much a tactic within purpose-driven marketing, and it's all about using this tactic to drive sales for the business and then raise money for the nonprofit and raise funds. It can be short or long term, but typically you'll see it as a sales-oriented promotion. And there are all different kinds of CauseMarketing promotions, and I'm sure many of you know about this, so just bear with me, I'll just kind of click through it quickly. But there's transactional campaigns, there's digital campaigns, there's joint, do you want to make a donation at the checkout on the digital pin pad? There's licensing, where the nonprofit can literally license its logo to be put on a brand in exchange for a licensing fee. Message focusing, there's events, and these all can be executed, but typically if we said, well, what's the criteria for it? There's usually some sort of consumer interaction where they're making a purchase of something, usually on the brand side, and then money and awareness is getting back to the nonprofit. There are often legal implications tied to this in at least 40 states, if not more now. Massachusetts is certainly one that has legal implications. So you just want to make sure if you're a brand on the phone or business and you've not gotten into CauseMarketing before, you'd want to make sure that you're following the laws. Typically, it's all around disclosure that the anticipated donation, gets to the nonprofit. The length is usually involved, and usually there's maybe a guarantee. They just want to make sure that's all we're being fair. But I'm not a lawyer. Nanette is, but so that's sort of the definition. Just real quick here, you can see I said CauseMarketing is not corporate philanthropy, where usually a large any size foundation would be giving money to the nonprofit directly, usually in the form of a grant. And it's not social marketing, where what would be a good example of social marketing? Oh, like when the world, wearing masks is a good social marketing public awareness campaign, where they're trying to get society to act in a certain way, like drunk driving, breastfeeding. Those are all social movements. Okay, next. So it works really well in terms of getting customers to love your brand. This first statistic is so near and dear to my heart, because when I got into this field in 1993, I was at a PR agency called Cone Communications, and they did proprietary research, the first study ever, that asked the questions, would consumers purchase a product if price and quality were equal and it was associated to a nonprofit, a cause? And back then, in the olden days, in 1993, 65% of consumers said they would. And that was really the first data on this field. And the phone rang off the hook with Timberland and Mattel and Home Depot asking us to help them figure out how to be more strategic about their philanthropic giving. So it works well, and you can see there's tremendous impact. I love this example here of Yoplait and Save Lids. I know it very well. I worked on these accounts for over 10 years. I worked for both the Susan G. Komen for The Cure and Yoplait. And basically, the reason I'm sharing this one is I just want to unpack it a little. It really started as a short-term promotion. It was, I think, maybe a 6-week promotion that ran in grocery stores where Komen said, Yoplait said, buy yogurt and we'll make a donation to Komen. They pick Komen and they like Komen because their primary consumer back in the day when we were working on this was 25 to 45-year-old women who cared about health and specifically breast cancer. So it worked well for the brand. And so over time, as we were working with them in the early days, how do we extend this? How do we do more than be a one and done promotion? And they became more involved with Komen and the assets that Komen had, one of which was the National Race for the Cure sponsor series, which has over 122 Race for the Cure events happening all over the country and even globally. And that's really where the long-term relationship came into play, where they said, we're gonna sample, we're gonna activate at those events, we're gonna become the national sponsor of that entire event, and we'll take this promotion, which is gonna happen at all these different retailers across the country, and we're gonna be executing yogurt sales and driving people who come to that race back into the grocery store to buy yogurt. And we're going to create individual different point of sale programs. So some of them, maybe Kroger had Salute to Survivors, and Safeway had Hello to Heroes or something. I can't remember the exact name. Anyway, they sampled over 7 million yogurts in that time, and sold a ton of yogurt and raised over 30 million for Komen. So I just want to take this down to a local example, and the best one I can think of to just sort of try to apple this is Cisco beer. And I don't know, I did go to the website. I don't see anything happening there, but I could imagine something like this for them, where they say, we're going to pick a cause that's relevant to our primary customer, and we're going to find the right nonprofit who has assets that would work for us. And we're going to start to activate this on premise at bars, off premise at retail stores, and try to drive sales for Cisco beer and awareness for our nonprofit partner. So that's Komen. Now we're going to switch gears, and now I'm going to talk specifically about sort of the business side and how businesses go about finding the right cause. And then I'm going to flip over to the nonprofit side and talk about how you can attract corporate partners. So the first place, I mean, and I have just a couple of slides on this, but I would say if you're a business, you're a brand, you say, I want to get into cause marketing, but what is my issue? And this is really around being authentic and picking a cause that's right for you. And so it's really about the why, like, what is the product and service I have? What's unique about it? What values guide my company or me, if I'm the CEO or the founder of it? You know, and it doesn't have to be something that necessarily feels like, you know, we make these environmental beach bags, so we have to do something environmentally. No, you could pick a pet project as long as it's authentic. So you could be working in the arts. It's really about finding something that the brand cares deeply about, and it feels authentic. So these are sort of, I think, great questions to be asking yourself as a business as you think about your cause platform. The second, thank you. Once you figure that out, it's say, okay, now we have to overlay that with what our target cares about. I mean, in the best case scenario, again, if an issue is near and dear to a founder or the senior team's heart, you can make that work. But the best sort of strategic way to say is, what's an issue that's right and authentic for the brand, and what does my primary target care about? Where are most of my shoppers? What issues important to them? So you kind of put a pin in the why, and then go down the road of saying, now what do my customers care about? And there's a bunch of research, once you figure out your demographics, you can use to figure out what causes would overlay nicely on demographics. But ideally, it'd be great to pick one large issue and then form a partnership with multiple nonprofits. So if you are, let's just say, let's say you're some kind of product that cares about the environment. You'd say environmental activism or protecting the environment is my issue. And then I'm going to partner with, I'm going to use Nantucket nonprofits here, the Egan Maritime Institute or the Whaling Museum, and we're going to teach kids about the ocean and why it's important that we protect our beaches of Nantucket and beyond. And we can add other nonprofits to that as we go. Okay, thank you. So let's look at Patagonia. I love Patagonia as a best-in-class example. Now this is like the golden ring, right? Because they are so great at this, and they are so authentic, and they have been doing it for so long. But their big issue is environmental activism. And what they do, and what I love about them, is they go way beyond their clothes and commitment to say, like, who says don't buy this jacket? that's unbelievable, right, from a business standpoint. But what they do is they bring their love for the environment into everything they do. So their employees get time off so that they can 3-day weekends to go get outside and like live in the environment. They also do an environmental internship program. And in addition to that, not just for the employees, they give them off days to vote, and they talk about civil disobedience. So while environmental activism is their main platform, they're incredibly proactive and nimble when it comes to issues that come up. So I haven't looked to see yet what they're doing about racial injustice, but I'm sure they're doing something. And then they bring all that down to the consumer in a very, very authentic way. So this is a lot of people I talk, this is a very hard one to duplicate, but I think there are learnings from that. And the next one is Sam Adams and the Boston Beer Company. Back to beer. This program, they run their corporate social responsibility program, which activates as CauseMarketing promotions for their vendors and the bars and the retailers, is called Brewing the American Dream. They partner with a nonprofit named Axion, and they donate, or they lend, micro lending. They lend funds to beer, beverage and food entrepreneurs. And they sort of, the pickup, and I know this one well, in 2008, they were looking for a cause, and the team really got involved. I didn't work on the development of this, but a group that I work a lot with did, and I know the story well. And Jim Cook, who's the CEO of Sam Adams, was an entrepreneur himself who was struggling. He started Sam Adams in his kitchen in 1984 when domestics and imports were the rage and nobody was talking about craft beer. And he had to drive his truck door to door, begging bars to let him, to buy his beer. And it was challenging, and he had to take out loans. And so he was a revolutionary. He calls himself a revolutionary. And he knows that anyone struggling to start a food or beverage business, it's work. It's hard to get a loan. So that's the whole program. And then they bring their employees, in addition to the donation they've made, which was just significant, they bring their employees into it by having this thing they called speed coaching, where they have an expert from packaging, an expert from purchasing, an expert from design, and the entrepreneurs sign up and they come through and sit at a table when they bring their cookies or whatever they're doing, and they say, what should I do with this? And they say, oh, that packaging's all wrong, do this. Let me introduce you to this guy. Here's how I would, here's what the call to action should be. They really surround them with their talent. And I think that's just as amazing as the donation. So that's another great best in class one. And then just to sort of take that down to the local level to say, these are giant brands, but it also works on the local level as well. And so basically the message here before we move to the nonprofit part of this is to say, just find a cause that is right for your brand, that's authentic to your core customer. And for this one, these are from the town where Nanette and I live, Bill's Pizza. The guy who owns Bill's Pizza's brother was injured and is paralyzed. And so they have this 5K run they do every year, and they raise money for the Travis Roy Foundation, which helps individuals with spinal cord injuries. And it is just, and then they activate that. They give out free pizza for a certain amount of time, and they pick up the bibs there, and they really surround that run with a lot of promotion to help sell more pizza and raise more money. This yoga studio actually spends a lot of time in the environmental space, but you can see Black Lives Matters, and they have a whole bunch of donation-based classes. And then Winston Flowers that is doing Charity in Bloom, which is one, this must be near and dear to their heart, because I'm trying to connect health, women's health, with flowers, and so, but that works for them, and I love the name Charity in Bloom. So that's that's sort of taking you way down to the local level. Okay, catch my breath. Moving on to the nonprofits. Oh, no, I'm not. Sorry, I'm not moving on yet. I'm about to move on. This is just a summary slide because I thought it would be helpful when you get the deck. to be able to sort of, without my voice, be able to find something useful in it. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but that's sort of a checklist of figuring out your issue and getting started on it. Okay, next. Okay, nonprofits. So switching gears. So the way that I'll go right to that, but the way that I developed this part of the presentation was to be able to give you guys some information to say, how can I better attract business support? And the first place to start, because the first place when I'm counseling businesses and brands is to say, you know, okay, it's a 501c3, you know, it made sense to the why and the customer. Now, what assets do they have? What are we going to be able to do through a partnership that helps us raise awareness for their mission, but also helps us raise awareness for what we're trying to do? And by the way, that's the same question you could be asking brands, nonprofits. What real estate, what assets do they have that you could become a part of? And that's why when you're thinking of these things, it's really about a partnership versus a sponsorship, because you want to be able to leverage each other's assets. So for the nonprofits, you're going to inventory your assets. And I spend a lot of time working with my clients around this area of assets, because when I ask them, what are your assets? They're like, I don't, you know, why is that an asset? And so I sort of just put a list together here. And I made this to think of it, to say assets are fluid. So pre-crisis assets, just with COVID on the mind, on the left, events and board members and web traffic and marketing collateral. And when I say board members, I mean the relationships your board members have. You're not going to be able to tell them what to do in terms of, you can't give them to the for-profit, of course. But anyway, those are pre-crisis. And then on the right, you might have said, oh, we have social workers that work with us, or mental health experts, or extra space, or supplies. And you know, I was thinking about PPE equipment, and there were some nonprofits that really weren't in that space, but had assets that could lend a hand. So your assets are fluid, and you need to really know them and be able to articulate the value of them. And once you do that, there's ways to package them in a way that feels like an offering that you're giving to the brand, that they say, oh, that's worth this money. I can see how I can activate those. Okay, so that's the assets. This is like Patagonia was the golden ring. I would say Boys and Girls Club is another, on the nonprofit side, a golden ring. They have a lot of assets, and they do, I just grabbed the screenshot here of their programs. They basically take their assets and then they bundle them under program umbrellas. So if I'm Dick's Sporting Goods, I'm probably going to get involved in their sports and recreation program. If I'm Scholastic, I'm going to go to education. So I'm not, you know, obviously this is pretty prescriptive. But so that's just a very smart way to be packaging your assets. And then what I love about these guys, because they are so good at this, now they also happen to have an amazing national brand with huge brand awareness. They have access to celebrities. They have very connected board members. So they're not like, you know, they didn't just arrive here. This is a nonprofit that has a lot going for it. But because of that, I underline this in red, they're like, look, we're not just going to work with any business. We're going to work with brands that have a good reputation and also have assets. You see here, and they want to leverage their assets. They want brands that are going to say, we'll put you on our website. We have this many social media followings. We do this award or event, and you can be a part of that. Like, they really want that to happen in a way that helps activates the relationship, because nothing is worse for a nonprofit than somebody just writing a check when there's opportunity for it to be executed at a higher level. When your brand partner says, you know what, here's the money, we're going to agree to this money and we're going to activate it. So then the next slide, and this is really where this comes into play, because there's lots of different money windows at corporations. And this one on the left, the brand side, is where you find the spirit and willingness to activate. You know, these are brand managers that you're partnering with who have to sell yogurt or beer. And so they're willing and interested in promoting your nonprofit because they want the halo. They want to show that they're good corporate citizens. And so they're very focused on activating your relationship. On the right side, the foundation money is a direct grant. You're probably familiar with those. It's much more of a vendor relationship. You have to deliver what you said you would deliver in terms of the impact. And I find them to be incredibly time consuming, but it is good money. And their foundations out there, I worked with Safe Kids, and they have wonderful, huge grants from FedEx that are amazing, and they're big, but they also take the organization a lot of time to manage. And then the other one is human resources, where they are really looking within companies, especially now with COVID, ways to get their employees engaged and keep them part of their culture. And so nonprofits provide a great way to do that. It's a great kind of backdoor into a corporation, because if you get the employees to be excited about your cause and to be engaged, they become evangelists for you and can help introduce you to the right people at the company. So that's how you find the money. And then, oh, sorry, you're going, I got to click ahead. So, figuring out, once you know kind of the lay of the land, you say, we're going after this brand side or we're going after the foundation. Typically today how it works is you're going to send an email. If you don't, hopefully you have a warm contact maybe from a board member, but you're basically going to explain quickly why they should care about you, like why your mission matters to their brand, and give them some context, and then show that it's relevant and urgent. They're going to want to know impact. So there's often, I like to put together a one sheet, which is just like a PDF, which kind of highlights why, the impact and why this, and then throw that into an email. You throw that along with an email and just sort of explain it quickly, because, as attention spans go. And the last one, just let me click on to talk about this last one. Showcasing your constituent and donor demographic information is important, because you want to be able to say to them, look, I'm not reaching out to you just because. I'm reaching out to you because your consumers, the people that love your brand, actually really care about this issue. And they want you to support issues like this. These are the kind of people that support us. And there are ways to get texture and information around who your donors are. That's for another discussion, but you kind of want to build up like, this is who supports us. These are our impassioned supporters, and they're going to drive by Stop and Shop to get to, Star Market, because they care so much about our nonprofit and our mission. Okay. So putting best practices to work, again, much like I said on the for-profit side of the shop, I just wanted to throw this in so you have a reference point if you go back and look at the presentation. I think the big thing is think like a retailer or a business, and show them how they could activate a relationship with you. So if let's just go back to Vineyard Vines and the Whale. Let's say you're the Egan Maritime Institute, and you're trying to attract Vineyard Vines to give you, to partner with you. You're going to say, what could we do? What could they do in their store? Could we bring in shells and sand and trash, and set up a sand pit of why it matters, and how Egan Maritime Institute is helping to educate middle and high schoolers on Nantucket about environmental ocean protection. And could their customers get involved some way? And anyone who comes by the sand pit and does let's just say a guess in terms of how much trash ends up on the Nantucket beaches, wins a free t-shirt or something. You can create these thought starters, I call them, that are kind of fictional, but it gives the brand an idea of how they could activate your relationship. So I spend a ton of time doing copywriting and brainstorming for my clients to show them how they can show the brands, these big ideas that the brand is going to have to pay for to create, but it gets the brand excited. Okay. So here's the last chat, Nanette. I think I'm
going to lose my, okay.
Good job. we're done. And this is like the last slide. So I wanted to just put this challenge out there. And I don't know how many businesses are on the phone versus nonprofits, but if you are a Nantucket business, pick a Nantucket charity and create a CauseMarketing promotion this summer. It doesn't have to be the end all be all long-term promotion. Give it a shot, test, learn, and adjust. I know, like everyone, nonprofits are suffering due to COVID, and that would just be that would be authentic. Another idea, another challenge, I'd love to see a couple of different businesses, or all the businesses would be my wish, coming together to say, let's create a giant CauseMarketing promotion and support the island's COVID relief fund that's happening on Nantucket. And work together to leverage each other's assets and really cooperate and be strategic about how together you're able to do more. There's so much more cooperation happening now. Even with nonprofits that used to be competitors are coming together and forming strategic alliances. And the businesses have one goal in their head, which is they need to get their customers back. They need to be engaging the folks of Nantucket. And so how can they work with and help Nantucket charities through the COVID relief effort in that effort? Okay, click. I think I say thank you. I say thank you. I say thank you for listening. I say thank you to Nanette for driving us through it. I'll take questions now, and so have at it. And again, you'll get the recording and the deck after the call. Phew.
Woo, you did it. Good job.
Thank you.
Questions, thoughts?
Or you guys, yeah, if you want to chat in the box.
So one thing that I think, Melissa, that I appreciated that you said on here is like, you gave a lot of aspiration and inspiration, but also showed how like it can be down on the local level. And one thing that I think is interesting about this is, this opportunity is a very creative time, even though everyone is very stressed by what's going on in the world. There's also a lot of, appetite for innovation and creativity. And I know for a lot of nonprofits and for a lot of local businesses, this is new. So how would you, what would be the first thing that you would say if I'm working at a nonprofit right now or a business? Maybe you can do it both sides. It's a lot of information, inspiration. What is the first thing they should do if they want to dip their toe in this innovative space?
Well, just sort of starting from the back to say, don't think it's the end all be all. You don't have to say, I want to create a strategic platform and this is going to be my long-term issue. I think right now there's an appetite for just doing good. And so if you are, let's just take a business. If you're a business and you want to try it out, what do you care about as a founder of your business? What issue, God forbid, did somebody die from breast cancer or suffering from breast cancer? Or, it could be anything. It could be, you care about the arts because, your grandmother was an artist, or you try to find some thread to pull on that feels relevant and authentic and something you care about. You don't have to dive deep into your customers and, the platform and just say, I'm going to try that. And I do think ideally finding a charity on Nantucket would be great. All the research says that customers who support brands like nonprofits that are in their backyard. And so the big brands I work with are always looking for national nonprofits with local opportunities where their employees and their customers work, play, and live. And that's really the recipe. So that's why the Komen Foundation works so well and attracts so many big brands, because they have a very big national brand that people know, and they just get deep into those grassroots communities. So having the Nantucket grassroots communities to access would be really big. So I would say that. And then on the nonprofit side, I would just say, take a look at your assets. Try to think of, if you had to explain that quickly on a page, what do you have to offer to businesses? And again, go back to just stay on Nantucket. And, just ask for a cup of coffee and say, here's why I think it works for your brand. Would you be willing to test this? And don't try to feel like what I've presented today is like too much work or too big. That's really, as Nanette said, to inspire us all. You know, every little bit counts.
Great. So in this scenario you gave, like you could imagine if I own like a salon and I want to do like for every haircut, I'm going to make a donation to X charity. Like
Yeah.
that would be
Perfect.
something that it could happen. Or,
Yeah.
you know, for if a restaurant, you know, wanted to partner, it can be as simple as that.
It can be as simple as that. That's a great one. Yeah.
That's awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for the clarification.
Yep.
Good. Anyone else have questions? I think that was so comprehensive, Melissa. Thank you. I learned, you know, I feel like I've been advising clients to get into this space and I learned a bunch. So thanks for that.
That's good.
You know, I do think, you know, the interesting thing is that asset, you know, the dive into looking at the assets and how organizations can do that. And I think the challenge is like during this time, everyone's so busy, how can you kind of clear the deck and have fresh eyes to do that? And so, but I hope that this will be a springboard for there to be more purpose-driven partnerships on the island, because there's certainly, you know, a lot of opportunity. Right.
And I would say, you know, if you don't have money to, let's say, I mean, the thing about CauseMarketing, if you're working with a local nonprofit, I mean, some of the big nonprofits often demand kind of a sponsorship fee, and then you're allowed to create a CauseMarketing promotion. But there's lots of situations where you just say, look, I mean, maybe this is what the winery does, is to say, we're not making a long-term commitment. We're just going to say a percentage of our sales is going to go to this local charity. And if we don't sell anything, nothing's going to go to the local charity, but we can give it a shot. So I think that's just very accessible to say, we're just going to, like, what do you have to lose by saying, we're going to pick a charity that works for us, that feels right for me, either personally or, you know, my kids, you know, attended a camp at one of these nonprofits on the island, like the Whaling Museum, if they did one, or the Egan Institute. And you say, look, I really feel near and dear to my heart, so I'm gonna run a promotion and see if we're able to donate a percentage of our sales. And if you don't sell anything, you're not able to make the donation. But I was also gonna say, the talent of the employees, like you might say, okay, we also want to donate our talent. We have all this talent of folks that work in our restaurant or work at our hair salon, and you know, they could become volunteers for the nonprofit, or they could maybe help the nonprofit in some way, like in the Sam Adams example, where they were sharing their expertise in packaging and sales to help the nonprofit. So I think there's lots of ways to work it.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So
I think that's it. Carmen, thank you so much for having
us. Nanette, thanks for driving.
No problem. Sorry
Thank you as well.
I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, it's really comprehensive. So Carmen, Melissa will send you a PDF to send out of the deck.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Thanks, guys. Stay safe and good luck as things start to reopen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take good care.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Okay.